Hey Lions fans, this is the kind of late window noise that doesn't feel like gossip. It feels like the league quietly testing how serious Detroit really is about turning a great story into a sustained era of power. Because while everyone is busy watching desperate franchises chase miracles, there's a veteran quarterback in New York, a Super Bowl winner with a bruised reputation and a trade-friendly deal drifting closer to the conversation around teams that actually have a plan. And yes, that orbit is starting to brush up against Allen Park, whether people are ready to say it out loud or not. This is Lions News Fan Report. I'm with you like always, talking straight to you, not over you, bringing real context, real numbers, and what people inside the league are actually saying about our team. And today I want to walk you through something very specific. Why Russell Wilson's situation with the New York Giants became one of the most intriguing side plots of this deadline cycle, what that really means in football terms, and where the Detroit Lions fit into this picture if, and only if, the move makes us stronger in the only column that matters now, the Super Bowl column. You're going to get the full picture here. The state of our roster, the market around veteran quarterbacks, how Wilson's contract and performance change the equation, and whether there is a version of this idea that helps the Lions without compromising everything that got us here. So stay with me, because the headline people throw on social media is the lazy one. The real story is smarter, and it's about power, timing, and leverage for a franchise that finally knows who it is. Right now, as I record this, we're not that old Lions meme anymore. We're a 6'3" caliber team, top-tier offense, physical identity on both lines, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes aligned, blue-chip pieces locked in long-term, fan base engaged, Ford Field alive in every big game, and a locker room that expects January football. Jared Goff is still the steady command center of this operation, distributing the ball, owning the line of scrimmage, running Ben Johnson's concepts with comfort and trust. The extension for our stars, the aggressive but calculated way we've added talent, all of that screams one thing. This front office believes the window is now, but it's not a one-year window, it's a multi-year platform. And in that context, every rumor about this team has to be filtered through a grown-up lens. Does it help protect that window, or does it drag us back into chaos? That's why the Russell Wilson noise hits differently. In New York, Wilson arrives on a short, manageable deal with guaranteed money that the Giants chose to eat because they believed he could stabilize a broken offense, mentor their young talent, and buy time for the next guy. Instead, he opens the year flat, gets benched, and suddenly a 10-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, and massive career earner is standing on the sideline behind a rookie and another veteran, while national insiders start floating his name on every trade candidate board. His base number is structured in a way that makes a midseason move possible, and his on-field value is no longer that of a franchise savior. It's of a reclamation project or high-end backup who might still have flashes left if you drop him into the right ecosystem. That's the frame, not prime Russ, but what's left, at what price, in what role. And once you define it like that, certain teams become obvious talking points. QB-needy rosters desperate to patch disasters, fragile contenders praying for a spark, and then teams like Detroit, who don't need a savior, but have reached the level where depth at quarterback isn't a luxury topic, it's a serious strategic conversation. Because the higher you climb, the more one injury or one bad stretch at the most important position can ruin a year that your entire building worked 12 months to create. So let me be very clear as I bring this to you. There is no official move made sending Russell Wilson to Detroit, and there has been no bombshell announcement out of Allen Park. What exists, and it's enough to warrant our attention, is a real league-wide recognition that Wilson is available, that the cost in draft capital would be modest compared to his resume, and that he only makes sense for organizations with a strong culture, a defined starter, and a clear ceiling he can't break just by walking through the door. And that's where the Lions appear in quiet conversations. Not because we're lost, but because we're stable. Think about what Wilson actually brings in 2025 if used correctly. A decade plus of playoff and big game experience, a history of operating efficient, timing-based offenses, comfort under the lights, and a professional approach that, even with the drop-off we've all seen, still commands respect in a quarterback room. You're not trading for his name, You're trading for insurance, specific packages, and the ability to survive the worst-case scenario without throwing your season in the trash. In Detroit, Goff is the starter, full stop. This project runs through him, and he's earned that. Any conversation about Wilson and Honolulu Blue only makes sense if it is built on that non-negotiable foundation. Russ comes in as a clear number 2, maybe short yardage or red zone specialist in some concepts if the staff sees it, a film room ally, a voice who's seen every coverage, who can help in game adjustments, and who takes exactly 0 oxygen away from the established leader in that huddle. At any point the idea threatens the hierarchy or muddles the message, I'm out. The good news is, this front office has not given us any reason lately to believe they'd invite chaos into the building. They've been disciplined. They've paid their own. They've targeted character and fit. That's why I see the Wilson scenario, if it ever went beyond theory, as a leverage play for Detroit, not a lifeline. Financially, his one-year structure and the giant sunk cost mean you're not tying up your cap long-term. You're talking about a manageable number for a rental, a late pick or conditional pick at best, maybe a swap with some salary massaging, 0 foundational pieces involved. That's the crucial line. The moment anyone asks for real core assets, you hang up. From a football standpoint, slide him behind this offensive line with this run game, with Amon-Ra, Laporta, Gibbs, and the rest, and suddenly if Goff ever misses time, you're not handing the keys to an untested kid in a year where expectations are sky high. You're handing them to someone who, even in decline, knows how to manage a game, hit play-action throws, and trust a scripted game plan. In January conditions, in a hostile environment, that matters. At the same time, you and I both know the tape doesn't lie. Russell Wilson has not been the same player for a while. The sacks, the hesitation, the late and the down drift, the inconsistency, those are real. Bringing him in only works if the staff is convinced that within this system, he can be efficient in a narrow role, not asked to cook, just asked to execute. If you force him to be vintage Russ, you're signing up for disappointment. But if you frame it as strong roster, strong staff, elite OL, defined weapons, and we want one more veteran adult in the room in case the season throws us a curveball, then the risk-reward calculation gets interesting. And that's why, as we hit and pass this deadline window, I treat these whispers not as a distraction, but as a test of how we think about ourselves as Lions fans. Do we still react to a big name with panic or blind excitement? Or do we look at it the way a contender should? Does this move raise our floor without touching our ceiling? My position with you is clearly this. If the price on Russell Wilson is genuinely minimal, if the role is clearly defined behind Jared Goff, if the communication inside the building is honest and direct, I can see a version where adding him is a smart, calculated, low-risk layer of protection for a team that has earned the right to think like a heavyweight. If any of those conditions are broken, if it threatens the chemistry, if it touches cornerstone pieces, if it muddies the leadership, then Detroit walks away and feels absolutely fine doing it because we are not in the business of desperate swings anymore. Now I want you in this conversation with me before we close it out. Imagine the reality. You wake up and see the alert that the Lions sent a late pick to New York for Russell Wilson, 1-year rental, clear QB2, Goff untouched, core untouched. Does that move make you feel more secure about this playoff run? Or do you believe it brings more noise than value to a locker room that already believes it can beat anyone with the guys it has? Tell me honestly in the comments where you stand, because this channel exists to reflect the mindset of a fan base that finally expects greatness and is not afraid of big discussions anymore. My concise read for you is this: Russell Wilson in 2025 is not a franchise savior, but in the right structure, he can still be a functional piece. For the Detroit Lions, any scenario involving his name only makes sense on our terms. Low cost, clear hierarchy, no damage to the core. And if those boxes are checked, it becomes one more example of a front office using the market, not being used by it. If the conditions aren't there, standing pat is not fear. It's confidence in the roster we've built. Drop your take below. Let me know if you'd greenlight or veto this kind of move based on everything we've laid out. And if you value getting this type of detailed, straight, no-nonsense breakdown from a Lions perspective, make sure you're subscribed, turn on your notifications, and stay close to Lions News Fan Report because every serious rumor, every strategic decision and every step of this run, I'll be here with you.